This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to an epic way to start our day on our sunrise safari. Absolutely perfect way to also begin I suppose not a new week, but the second day of the week in some respects. It's a beautiful scene as Tingana precariously balances himself on a rather flimsy tree. It's quite an interesting tree that he's chosen. My name's Tristan. On camera I've got Craig this morning. The Batman is back on this vehicle, which is always wonderful to have. Haven't worked with Batman for quite a while, so quite happy to have him on board this morning. Now remember, we are coming to you live and interactive, so ask lots of questions and any comments that you may have. Like I say, it's got cats already and there's a hyena that's lurking, so lots of things to discuss and to talk about, and it'll be really nice to see kind of what played out here. It's very difficult at night. We found him via the drone, so Steve was the individual that found him, and Seb, and guided us in. And so now that there's a bit of light, it will be quite interesting to see actually what took place here. I have a funny feeling that this kill has been stolen by our leopard friend over here, because if you look at the size of this carcass, it's an impala carcass that was there. Now don't fall out the tree. There was an impala carcass, but the carcass itself is very little left of this carcass. There's not much at all. And if you look at the size of his belly is quite, I mean, it's round, but it's not monstrous from eating an entire impala. And the impala itself is still very fresh. There's blood coming off of it. His whole face is red with blood. So this is not something that has been dead for 3 days that he's been feeding on. This is something that I reckon was killed yesterday or last night, and he might have stolen it. Now, I know that Herbie yesterday afternoon lost Tundi and Columbus tracks right in this particular section where we are now, and so I wonder if maybe it wasn't their kill that Singana came in and stole. Luckily he got it up into a tree just in time, because otherwise there would have been no impala meal for him because of all the hyenas that are around. So there's actually 2 hyenas that are here currently. I did hear some growling just now. It could have been the hyenas that were just growling at one another, or it could have been them growling, another leopard growling, but I haven't seen any sign of another leopard. Oh look, there you go, they're rushing in because a bone just dropped. How cool is that interaction? So it just goes to show you, I mean, that's one little bone that's dropped. And so hyenas, even though their society is one of a lot of respect for one another, and they look after each other, and they're very close-knit, they still, when it comes to food, it's much like lions or anything else, there is a lot of competition, and they will definitely fight with one another over the last little bits of scraps. But very cool to hear them going at each other. And so the 2 of them are poking their heads out from behind the grass. Difficult to see who's who here at the moment. It looks like we've got the ones with the scrappy ears, so that should be able to help us in identifying who they are. Hyenas at the moment are all over the place, which is very, very interesting. So it will be interesting to see where they're actually spending their time. Aegis Tingana and stealing from everybody, and he will steal from anyone that he can. He's the big dominant male here, and that gives him the right to steal from pretty much everybody else, and it's working for him so far. It's I can't remember the last time he made his own kill, to be honest. He seems to have just been able to latch onto everybody else's and fed himself very well. I mean, of course, he could have killed this. I might be just doing him an injustice. I just don't think so, just given how little is left and how his tummy is not really that swollen. If he had eaten as much as that and destroyed that entire impala, he would be a very, very fat cat, and we probably would have seen him going for water at some point. Anyway, it's cats galore this morning because, well, while we've got Tingana up in the tree, Brent Leo Smith is up in the mire with the lions.
Kenya with the sausage tree pride, and they are having a lazy Monday morning. We've got all 4 members that have been here for the last few days. They have not moved more than about 500 meters. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I have VM on camera, and welcome to the Masai Mara in Kenya. Remember, this is 100% live, and if you have any questions for us, #SafariLive is the best way to get your questions to us. Now, we're trying to decide what to do because these lionesses are looking decidedly lazy, and of course the migration has been moving past this little spot where they've been lying, so they haven't had to move far to get a meal. and I don't think they're going to get up to too much just yet. So I think we're going to go on a little wander to see where the migration is, or what part of the migration is where. There's quite a lot of wildebeest, but there's some nice birds as well. Let's go have a look at the vultures. So there's wildebeest and zebra everywhere, and during the night they move away from these low-lying areas, of course, because it's full of things like lions and leopards, and they move up a little bit lower, and as it gets warmer they come down into these low-lying areas to drink and to feed on the green grass close to the little river systems. And the lions at the moment don't tend to move too far. They just sort of wait in ambush for the wildebeest to come to them. And another creature that is taking great glee in the death that the migration brings is, of course, our scavenging birds. Here we go. We've got some vultures up there, waiting for it to get a bit warmer before they start flying about. White-backed vultures. I can't see the one on the right. Is it a Rupels? No, it's a white-back. They're all white-back. Come on, lift your head. There could be a Rupels on the right. Until he lifts his head and I can see his beak. No, yes, it is. You can see that very distinct sort of pale tip to the beak. There's a Rupels griffin, as well as two white-backed vultures. Okay, which way should we go? Left or right? I say let's go left. So what we're going to do is we're going to move down the Kishangai River, or the Kishangai Stream, which is this lovely little lugger here, and see if we can find where the next herds of wildebeest that might be moving up towards the Sausage Tree Pride are. The Owino Pride has also been in this area, but a little bit further to the west, and the Shepherd's Tree male leopard has also been around here. So lots to look for, and of course a couple of 100,000 wildebeest. And you would think they'd be very hard to miss. I see there's some up on the ridge in the distance. So as I was saying, they move away from these low-lying areas at night, and they do move down into them during the day. Okay, so while we meander on and mission on to see what we can find, let's go say good morning to the bubbly Madam McCurdy, somewhere near the Mara River.
Good morning, good morning. Look at what we've got. That is not a log in the water, but unfortunately a wildebeest that didn't make it during a crossing. Hi again. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Archie. Woohoo! And I don't know why I'm out of breath this morning. I've done absolutely nothing, but anyways, there's no oxygen here to breathe. Remember, this is a live and interactive show, and I look forward to answering all of your questions. So get chatting, get commenting. If you've got any cool jokes, share them with us. We like jokes too. So it's very difficult to see, but just down and up on top of that little ridge, there are some zebra and wildebeest that you can see gathering. Small group. Again, I don't think it'll be a massive crossing. Maybe a few more will join, but they're not ready to cross just yet. They're still quite far up. Some of them are eating. They might even end up going around to one of my favorite crossings, cul-de-sac, at some point, and I hope that they do. Carol, I think I got that question clearly about whether the animals... No, wait, I didn't. I apologize. It's early this morning. Emma, please can I have all of that again, because I didn't hear it properly. My listening skills are probably at about 2 out of 5 today. Yes. Okay. So, sorry, Carol, I did hear it properly, but then I wasn't sure, so I just double-checked. So, no, the migrating animals will only hang around for a certain amount of time. Of course, as we were saying, if you've been watching a couple of days ago, we're talking about the loiterers. So there's a couple of thousand wildebeest that decide that they don't want to go anywhere. They're quite happy here. So there is enough food around to sustain them. So that's what's happened. So these little pockets of wildebeest that we're seeing at the moment, these are part of the loiterers. They haven't come down from the south, from Tanzania. So they'll just gather up, and everybody's crossing back into the triangle. So on that side, that's the Masai Mara National Reserve, and then we're in the triangle over here. But I don't know I haven't seen any super early morning crossings here just yet. It's very cold, and we do know that they prefer to cross when the day is a little bit warmer. So what Archie and I are probably going to do today is head down a little bit further south and search for some lions along the banks of the river. hoping to get a hunt. But I can't believe the crocodiles haven't eaten these two wildebeest yet. Maybe they've only just washed downstream and it is a little bit cold, as we've been saying. Crocodiles prefer the warmer water. That one, not warmer water, the warmer weather. That one's already out, trying to gain some warmth after a very, very chilly night. Ronnie, there's nothing better than being free when you're out on a safari. So being in an open safari vehicle, it's the most amazing thing because you can actually look up and see the birds flying overhead. I'm so sorry, I'm having all sorts of malfunctions today, including my cable pulling basically my head like this at the moment. And to see giraffe walk past the car, if you're lucky enough to experience that, if you're in a closed safari vehicle, you just see their legs. I mean, giraffe legs are nice to look at, but only for about 30 seconds, and then you've seen all of them. And so it's quite nice to have an open safari vehicle. That's my preference. However, it can get quite uncomfortable, especially if you're doing all-day safaris and you're out in the sun. Remember, that sun is going to bake down, basically, and you're going to get super sunburned, you're going to get dehydrated, especially if you're not used to the harsh African sun. So sometimes it is quite nice when you're doing these full-day safaris to have a roof over the top of your head. It's just a little bit more comfortable, if you will. But, yeah. I would still probably just get a big old hat, big beach hat, maybe put some string on it, tie it around and lather up the sunscreen to make it all worth it. But maybe a bit later, these crocodiles, once they've warmed up, will start feasting on the wildebeest carcasses. It'd be quite nice if we were here to see them because they're really close to the edge of the river. It's quite spectacular to see how many crocodiles there are. Well, the sun has already risen here in Kenya, but it's just starting to poke its head out in South Africa.
It has indeed, and it is a beautiful scene as that sun is rising and Tingana is precariously placed on his tree. It was pity that he's not turned a little bit more side on so that we could actually get his full sort of silhouette, but isn't that beautiful? It is a magic scene to start a Tuesday morning, that's for sure. And we've got him kind of it's quite funny watching him actually, because the whole tree is wobbling every time he moves. Oh, they went to piece, so that's going to be dragged away by the hyenas quite quickly. See, look, they're going to tussle over it, and you see a little bit of posturing that's taking place there. So definitely the individual on the right is far more dominant than the individual on the left. One on the left kind of cowers and looks down and just watches now up at Tingana, hoping that another piece is going to fall. Tingana is slowly but surely devouring his way through this carcass, and I don't think it's going to last the morning. I think it's going to be pretty much done by the time this morning is finished. I think we're going to see that there's going to be very, very little left of that impala carcass. You can see the legs that are dangling down below, and when I drove past to get to this position here, it seems as though there's just a bit of the rib cage. He's devoured the head while we've been here, and just those two back legs. So I don't know how much more space he's got. He might just come down and rest for a bit before finishing it off during the course of the day, but there really isn't very much left of that carcass. But what a beautiful way, like I say, to start the day. That big orange sun and a leopard up in a tree. The only thing that could have been better is if he was in a nice big marula with a nice big branch. So, Sarah, there's two reasons. Here in Djuma, a lot of the leopards are very well habituated. There's been a long lineage of leopard viewing here, and so many of our leopards are quite used to vehicles being around and therefore very relaxed. Whereas in the Mara, especially in the Triangle, given its history, it's only now that leopards are starting to be viewed, and it's because of certain sections, there's no off-roading. Leopards often can just get out of the way of vehicles very, very quickly and disappear, and nobody can actually keep up with them at all. So, that makes it a little bit trickier, and they know where there's areas that they can disappear, that people can't follow them. So that's one sort of side of it. The second thing is that there are a lot of leopard in the Mara, and just because we haven't seen a lot is there's two reasons for it. One is that at the moment, all the guys that are up in the Mara, so Brent and Taylor and Jamie and Scott, they are busy with characters that they are following regularly. So the Sausage Tree Pride, North Clan, Owinyo, they're looking at trying to find them on a day-to-day basis, and so their search is not focused in on leopard as much, and so they're not spending nearly as much time looking for them as they are for the other animals that they are there and that they are trying to follow and trying to spend as much time with. And then leopards in the Mara Triangle, when there is a sighting of a leopard, it can be quite busy. There can be often a lot of vehicles that go to a leopard sighting because they're not quite as common as Djuma, and so you find that they get a little bit chaotic and it makes it a bit difficult. What I will tell you though is, in the time that I was in the Mara, while I didn't see as many leopards as we see here in Djuma, and we're very lucky here in Djuma that we have a nice high density and we've got a few individuals that are dominant in our area that are relaxed, and it allows us to view them quite a lot. But while I was in the Mara, we saw a lot of leopard. There was leopards pretty much most of the time. In fact, I saw in 1 week, I think I had 5 or 6 sightings of leopard in a single week. So they are around. It's just that generally the sightings are very brief because the animals aren't as relaxed or habituated as they are here, and there's often a lot of vehicles around, and so that also doesn't contribute to getting that animal to a relaxed state. But there are 1 or 2 out there. There's the Maji Machafu female, Shepherd's Tree male. Both of those are very relaxed individuals. Then there's a female down at Cobra Corner that has 2 cubs, and one of the cubs is extremely relaxed. It will just sit in a tree all day long. So there are leopards there that are relaxed. It's also, the density there is not quite as high as here because of the very high hyena and lion population there. Leopards just don't do as well as what they do here. The open plains are not as conducive to them surviving as they are here in Djuma. You know, here in Djuma the thickets and the vegetation is just perfect leopard habitat, and so they do really, really well. Now, I believe that our 2 hyenas that we've got here are Heart and Corky. Now, I was pretty sure it was Corky, the one with the damaged left ear that was quite light in coloration. She's been around quite a bit lately, and then the other one I wasn't 100% sure, but Corky is definitely the one that was more dominant over that other individual just now. And I was hesitant to say Corky because I wasn't 100% sure. I was about 90% sure. But it's nice to see them all around. So that would be Corky in the background there. That's got its ear just sticking up. She's the lighter colored individual that's very dominant and seems to push everybody else around. So interesting that they're back on Djuma as much as they are and moving about. I'm pretty sure there's got to be a place that they are using for den area. We just got to find it. It's one of those things where we just got to keep hustling and keep looking, and eventually we'll get it right. But that sun is now starting to get quite high now, and you can see it's starting to lose its orangeness and getting very bright and almost burning out the sky, which is pretty interesting. It's amazing how fast it actually rises and how bright it gets. And today, because it's such a clear day, the first clear day we've had in quite some time, it's rising fast and becoming very bright. But that is such a cool picture to have of the 2 of the sun and of Tingana. Right, now, it's not just me out in Djuma this morning. You've met Brent and Taylor in the Mara, but Sydney's going to be out and about. I think he's on Rusty this morning, and, well, he's also chasing the sunrise.
I have just now started. I am now right about Galagopen, where I am trying to look for some of the cats. I am just following some of the alarm calls I heard earlier on. Here is where I'm hoping to see Hosanna this morning. My name is Sydney, and welcome to the beginning of the game drive. I am not traveling alone this morning. I am with Sebastian. He is my camera operator. My plan is looking for Hosanna this morning. The weather this morning is nice and clear, no wind at all, very perfect weather for trekking. I think this morning trekking will be much more interesting. So for your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. So Seb, let's go around here towards Buffalo's Hook area and see if maybe we can pick up something. So I just want to try and see the tracks in this area, as this is where the alarm calls were coming from just about 5-10 minutes ago. Oh, here comes the bushwalk team. It is chilly at the moment a little bit, but not that very bad. As you can see, I don't even have gloves with me, so it's cold, but it's not freezing. Morning, James. Morning, Heb. That was a bushwalk team. They have just also entered the area. Maybe they might help us when it comes to the tracks here. I haven't picked up the tracks yet. Yeah, the only tracks I'm seeing at the moment is the tracks from the elephants. They have been here maybe yesterday afternoon. So now let's see, the bushwalk team have just met now. Let's hear what the plans are.
We're hoping to find some tracks of Hosana as well, and then if we don't find those, we'll head off to the east to where possibly Tengana stole that kill from Tandi and Tlalamba. Good morning. My name is James Henry. On camera we have got Senzo, and I'm going to borrow the camera from him very briefly. Come here, give me the camera. Give it to me now, right now. This is very important, everybody, because Senzo is a bush fashionista of some repute, and I would just like you to please look at the outfit that we have going over here. Fantastic. There we are. Please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or the chat stream on YouTube, of course. 3 or 4 people have told you that already. Now there can be no doubt. There was some alarm calling around here. Louise Pavid, who's just raised herself from her bed, was sitting on her stoop having her morning coffee, and she heard the barking, I think, of some nyalas around here. So we're just checking to see if Hosana isn't possibly around this little point. It's a gorgeous morning. It's a little chilly, fresh, but very pleasant to be out on foot today. Good morning to you, Random Person 101. Seems a strange name to have given oneself, but you know, we've heard worse, or we've heard more strange, should I say. The elevation here at Djuma varies between about 380 meters above sea level to I think it's 418 at the toppest. I can't speak this morning, at its highest point, so it's not very high at all. Now, if you want to work that out in feet, you can multiply it by 3.25 and you'll get the feet. So that's what it is, about 380 to 418 or so meters above sea level. So it's pretty low down, and it's why this area of the country is called the low veld. Means the lowlands, basically. It's fairly flat, sort of gentle undulating topography, cut every so often by these dry riverbeds or gullies, with the odd outcrop or large outcrop of rock where there were some volcanic intrusions at some stage. Herbert is whistling for us. This way. Unless it's a bird, but I don't think it is. I think it's Herbert. Look what he's found. So Herbert is our game scout, tracker extraordinaire, great genius of the world. He's found tracks. In fact, he's pointing. I don't know if he's actually seen the animal or not. The animal being Hosana. Okay, we have tracks, definitely. Come with me. Don't go anywhere just yet. You see something? Hmm? What was that? You saw something running there. Do you think it was a duiker? Yes, a duiker. What have we got, Herbert? Death. Ah, tracks of a male leopard. Those of Hoshana. There they are. Here we have them. The three-lobed toe. The four front toes. Squirrel's alarm calling towards the eastern sky. In the words of Scott Dyson, good prospects for the dawn. Fantastic. All right. Let's follow them, shall we? See where they go. There's a squirrel alarm calling here. Fresh. Okay, we're going to be nice and quiet. Herbert says fresh. Now we're going to scan around. What you're looking for is obviously the spots, but the most obvious telltale sign would be a flash of white from the tail, or if he's lying down from his belly. There's a very, very angry squirrel there. Now squirrels have got very good eyesight, which means they can see for a long way. So although the squirrel is quite far from us, probably about 100 meters, the leopard could be anywhere here. So stay close, Senzo. Yep, big track here, big track straight in front of us. I'm just going to keep my head up and looking. Herbert watches the ground. I look up and around. So I think you should stay with us. You're going to stay with us as we see this unfold. We might be lucky now. It's a long time since I've seen Hoshana on foot. As a cub, he was very confiding. He didn't mind us on foot as human beings. But as he's grown older, so he's become less and less comfortable with us on foot, and he moves away. So whereas before, if he'd heard us coming, he'd probably just have lain there. If he hears us coming now, he might just melt off into the bush. Now what Herbie's doing is looking for more tracks. I'm looking under all the bushes just to see if we can't get a picture of him. We've got more here. Yes, Giraffe Girl, squirrels do lie, but tracks do not lie. Here he is. He's coming through here. There we go. Well done, Senzo. Let's keep going. These are very fresh. Steaming, as Herbert would say. He's gone straight up this game path over here. Straight up towards the north. Now you've got to be careful, but at the same time, if you move too slowly, he'll just keep walking in front of you. And you'll lose him. So there's a balance between speed here and caution, because you don't want to give him a fright. His track's still going along this game path here. Herbie's checking there, I'm checking here. We can see that he's going this way. He's coming up this way. Now as we get up onto the ridge crest, we'll listen, we'll look for his tail. His tail will be swishing white above the grass to tell the birds that he's not a threat to them. There's no further track here. Now everybody, if you missed how to submit questions, just send them to the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can just use the chat stream on YouTube, and we'll answer any questions you might have. Okay, there are no more tracks here. Minayon. He could be very close. He's turned off this game path. So let's just scan around. He could easily have heard us coming and just gone, whoop, onto the grass and we wouldn't see him. Herbie's just going to take a few steps forward. The squirrel stopped alarm calling. The squirrel started again. Okay, he's coming this way. Herbie's whistling us forward. He's going straight up this game path now. He came around it like this and back on here. Now all of you are whispering, apparently there he is, there are his tracks. He's going straight up this path. Like I say, very difficult to find that balance between, okay, we've got the track, let's move quickly, and then you either bump him or lose the track. He will eventually stop, of course. They're searching through this grass, a telltale swish of the white tail, indicating the presence of a male leopard. Hosanna, for those of you who don't know, 2.5 years old. One of our favourite cat characters. Known him since he was a day old. We have. He's still going up this road. Track's still here. Now we'll watch out for this termite mound that we're coming up towards here. He could have gone up onto the top. Saskia, all that means is that the track has gone. The track has gone off the path, and then it comes back onto the path. The termite mound is something we're going to be very careful of here, because he could easily be waiting the other side. He's gone through here. Herbert says he speak. Okay, so Herbert's saying maybe he was climbing up a tree, he heard a sound, like an animal climbing a tree. Now I thought that Tingana had a kill in here somewhere. It's possible that he's left it here and it's now starting to smell, and that's what's attracted Hosanna. Check the top of the termite mound, it could easily just kind of melt around the other side. But Herbie is convinced he's gone this way. So let's just pop through here. Trying to walk quietly, but trying to walk quickly. Watching where we put our feet. It's amazing how your senses start to sharpen in a situation like this. What looks like completely uniform bush begins to become much more defined. So Herbie said, we must go around here. He's going to look down into the drainage line. So I'm keeping an eye out on Herbie, keeping an eye out in front of us, trying not to stand on twigs like I've just done, giving away my presence. Can't see anything here. Vegas cat lover? No, the bushwalk leader is not carrying tranquilizers. He's carrying live ammunition, very much as a precaution. We would not be tracking this leopard if we thought that there was a chance we'd have to shoot him. So it's very much for an emergency situation. It's a legal requirement in this country that if you are going to be on foot in a big game area, you have to carry a rifle. But the other reason that you wouldn't carry a tranquilizer is that if you ever got yourself into into big trouble with an elephant or a buffalo or something like that, a tranquilizer would take far too long to take effect. So you would only ever shoot something if it was in sort of 10 meters, 30 feet of where you are. And obviously then a tranquilizer is going to take a minute or two to take effect. Also, if a leopard was to have a run at you, it would happen so fast you'd never be able to fire the weapon. So don't worry about that. And as we're walking along here, I'm getting the feeling that we're getting colder now, that we're missing something here. We'll keep looking. As we walk along, it's good for me to tell you that that rifle's not loaded, so if he pulls the trigger now, nothing's going to happen. It has rounds in it in case of emergency, but it would only be loaded or cocked in an emergency. So it's not like we're out here looking for trouble. Okay, we're going to keep looking around here. Let's go back to Hosana's father while we try and find the sun.
Well, good luck, James. I hope that you'll find them. I believe that there are alarm calls somewhere around that area, and so hopefully Hosana is somewhere nearby. Now, Tingana has stopped feeding now. He's decided enough is enough. He's just grooming himself and letting himself have a nice bit of a rest. He's found himself in a bit of a precarious position because, yes, I'm talking about you. And he's kind of gotten himself into a tree with hyenas absolutely everywhere around him. You can see there's a hyena actually right below him. And it's not the most comfortable tree to lie in. So he's now trying to kind of work out a comfy spot where he can sit. And you can see he's not that far off the ground either. So if a hyena really wanted to, probably could nip his tail if it jumped up and grabbed it. But for now, he's at least trying to find and settle on a branch and get himself at least comfortable for the morning. Now, it's not only just the two hyenas here. There's actually 4 that I can see at the moment that are spread around, so they're all just lying in various different positions, and they got all alert all of a sudden. They all poked their heads up and were listening and looking around, so I wonder if maybe something else was about. Now, Tingana is really struggling to find somewhere to actually sit. It's not a tree that is designed for a leopard, and there's lots of sharp little thorns, and he was struggling earlier to try and actually get his carcass out of the tree itself, and reposition it because it was dangling a little bit low and hyenas were starting to give it the beady eye. And so hopefully he's going to find that branch there and lie down. Let's see if he does. There we go. Is that going to be big enough for you, Tingana? Well, I'm pretty sure that there has been many casualties between hyenas and leopards over carcasses. None that I've seen. So I've never seen a leopard being killed by a hyena at a carcass. I would imagine it has happened. I would be very surprised if it hasn't happened. And like I say, I'm pretty sure many of them. I find quite a few cubs probably have been killed. Oh, there we go. Now that is about as comfortable as he can be. He's got hyena below him, and he's kind of stretched out, and you can see that they actually don't care for one another other than the food itself. Hyenas, if that was a carcass, would be jumping to try and get it, but because it's a leopard, they really don't want to bite him or do anything. And now Tingana has made himself as comfortable as possible. Right, now while we wait for Tingana to settle down properly and find a comfortable spot, let's send you quickly across to James on Bushwalk.
Look, there he is, spotted by Sensor. We walked past him, checked around. I don't know if he can see us. Tanakwala. This is fantastic. Let's do a little live action broadcast, everybody. There is Hosana on foot again. Hello everybody, welcome to the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. We're sitting here on foot with a leopard, a young male leopard called Hosana, 2.5 years old, spotted by the magnificent Sensor Mkhize, who is on camera today. We've been tracking this little cat for about half an hour. We knew we had very fresh tracks. He obviously went to ground because we walked right past where he's now standing. And Sensor just happened to turn around and look. And there he was. And Herbert, who's tracking for us today and is our game scout and protector, says he reckons this leopard was tracking us rather than the other way around. Now, he's very confiding on foot. Or he certainly was, and at this distance he's probably about 50 meters away from us. At this distance he's not going to be worried about us, and I'm just interested because he's not looking at us at all. He's completely relaxed, but I'm not convinced he knows that we can see him. He's not looking at us. This is so special, everybody. This is just magical. To be in the presence of an animal like this on foot. To have him completely relaxed with us. Bronik, it depends very much on the leopard that you happen to be tracking. So this particular leopard, it feels very special to track because we've known him for so long. And as a youngster, he was very relaxed with us on foot. I mean, he would actually approach us on foot. As he's got older, he's insisted on a little bit more distance between us and them. And now he's seen us. Now he's definitely watching us. But he's not concerned at all. Tracking, for example, Tandi, a leopardess with her cub, much more scary. Because she just is much less tolerant. Now we're just going to wait here and see what he does. He's now sitting. Herbie says that we can go towards the termite mound. Trina, you say, look how well he blends. He does blend beautifully well. We'll just go onto this termite mound. We're separated by a dry riverbed. He's moving. He's moving a little bit. It's so interesting. I don't think he wants us to get any closer, so we're not going to. We just want to be able to see him. But he slunk down into the bushes. Can you still see him, Herb? Herbie can still just see him. To the right of the log. Michael, the lifespan of a leopard like this is between 12 and 15 years, normally. Now, there he is. He's coming this way. Let's just wait and see what he does. Oh, he's leaving now. He's backing off. It's so interesting how, as the hormones of adolescence have started to started to go through his body, he's become bigger. He's become much more private. He's a social cat still. He's much more social than most leopards. But he's become much less enamored with us on foot. We can get another view of him this side. So he's not afraid. He's on the hunt probably. So he doesn't really want to be observed. So we're not going to try and get closer. We'll try and bring the vehicle in now. Can you see him? We're just going to ask Emma, who's directing today, to ask Sydney to turn his game drive radio on. He's behind the thicket there. So he didn't actually know he was coming towards us there for a little while. He probably smelt us, couldn't see us. That was magic. Alright, for those of you who have just joined us, we're going to leave you to get on with whatever it was that you were doing. You can keep watching on YouTube. Just go to SafariLive and you'll catch the rest of the stream. We are live, of course, from the Masai Mara and the Western Kruger here. Djuma Private Game Reserve is the particular piece of the Western Kruger we find ourselves on. Until next time, bye-bye. Right, everybody, we'll try and get one more view. I don't think we're going to, though. I think he's, interestingly, not very keen to see us on foot. And while he's remained social from the point of view that he likes to approach vehicles and sit next to them, and he certainly seems to enjoy the company of his father and his sister, or seek out their company. Us on foot anymore, no. And we always thought that when he grew up, this would change, or we wondered when he grew up whether this would change or not. So we're not going to try and approach him any closer. We're just going to look around this termite mound and see if we can get a view. Carol, it depends what you're trying to do, but there is a lot of logic to what you say, yes. I mean, it can be much better to give away your presence. A leopard like this, though, if you make a noise, it's going to move away. You're never going to find him. You're just going to track him and track him and track him, and he's just going to move away continuously. So no, in that case, you don't want to. If you're walking, however, and there's a herd of elephants, and you want them, you don't want to view them necessarily, you want to be safe around them, it's not a bad idea to let them know that you're there. You click, let them look at you. So there's certainly instances in which that would be the right approach, and then as they've seen you, you allow them to watch you move away. Same with the buffalo bull, it suddenly stands up out of the bush. You let it see you and you move away. You don't want to hide then and behave like a predator. But if you try and track a cat like this, making a noise so that he knows you're there, he's just going to move away. You're never going to see him. Let's just try one more around here. I think he's probably moved off. He didn't seem like he wanted to be around his old pals on foot anymore, which is a bit sad. Anyway, we're going to wait here for Sydney to come in. Guarantee you that Brent Leo Smith is going to be extremely jealous of the experience that we've just had over here. So you can ask him about that now.
Well, wasn't that exciting, a leopard on foot? We are having a look on the edge of the migration at the moment, just seeing what's around. And there's masses of wildebeest. You can just see them. We're heading slowly in that direction to the south of us, or the southwest of us there. And it is a beautiful morning, even though a little bit windy and chilly here in the Mara. And you never know what you can find on the edge of the migration. Could find Kenya, the cheetah. We might find Naratoy. Apparently she was down in that western area as well. Morning, James. James would like to know, did the rains bring any unusual birds into the Triangle? And let me just have a quick look at the binos. Nothing absolutely spectacular, but we did get quite a lot of African crakes and African rails during the wet season. And these wildies just looked like they were looking at something. Let me just whipping up the binos quickly, having a quick scan. A couple of small herds of wildies around. But alas, nothing here. I think it's going to go back towards the fig trees. Oof, it's getting bright. Well, Snazzy Zep says it must be a little bit warmer in the Mara. Actually, I would say in the mornings we've been colder than Juma every morning. Now, James was chatting a little bit earlier about how they're in the low veld, so we are very much not in the low veld. We are very much in the high veld. The area I'm in at the moment is probably 1,600 meters above sea level. Oh, what do we got? We got some lone baby wildies running in. This could get interesting. Let's see what they're up to or where they're going. Oh, no, they're running down the hill. They've obviously been separated from their mothers, probably during the pandemonium of a lion hunt, and it's not uncommon to find these little wildies just running through the grass trying to find their moms in this case. Poor little chaps. And of course course, the predators make short work of little wildies that are alone. Okay. Oh, lion. Straight ahead. It looks like a lion. Where'd it go? There. Here we go. There's a lion. Oh, let's go have a look. I'm not sure which pride this one's from. So the main reason we came out this direction this morning is because Scotty was out last night and he was with the sausages, and he heard a lot of roaring, and the sausage tree pride were roaring back. So we're trying to figure out if maybe the boys were coming back. The last place we saw them is that way, and the girls are over there. Where'd that lion go? Lost sight of him. Hang on, let's just catch up. Now, there is a big pride of lions that lives in this area called the Donia Pike Pride. They can be a little bit skittish. They're not used to vehicles. Now, we're down in the southern area again, where you don't get as many vehicles as you do in the north and the east along the river. It's quite why I quite like it. I mean, often we're the only people down here. You see them? Okay, hang on, we're going to catch up with them now. Look quite young. So we're just going to approach him carefully, because we don't know if it is one of the skittish lions from the southern area that are not used to cars and people. Not like our sausages, who are very relaxed. I've just lost sight of him now. Oh, there he is there. Oh, and it looks like he was having a little snack. So we got some vultures and jackals from the area where he left. Maybe, oh, the jackal's got a little piece of meat. So I think whatever it was must have been quite small, and it's pretty much over now. So it actually looks like there's a adult. Oh, look at that one's got a big piece of meat. Off you go. Well done, jackal. Now, there's a couple of little pups around as well. Well, sub-adults. These ones still near the vultures. Hey, little ones. Jeanette, sorry, I forgot to answer your question there, Jeanette. Jeanette was wondering, yeah, that male's looking up the hill here. I wonder if there's not more lions around, because it looks like a little boy, and he looks a little bit young to be without the pride. Looking up the hill, trying to see up here. Don't see anything just yet. So he looks like he's under a year old, or maybe just a year old, and he's all on his own. Probably from the Donia Pike Pride. He's calling. Where's everyone? I'm all alone. Now, sometimes the lions have quite a difficulty finding each other due to the strong wind that blows at this time of the year in the Mara. Shame, little man, you're all lost. Don't see any other lions around. There we go, he's calling again. So Jeanette was wondering, is the migration a little late this year? Well, yes and no. It's due to the fact that there was so much rain this year that the migration didn't need to move as fast and as far as they do in normal rainfall years. So we probably don't have data from before 100 years ago. So, but it is quite late. And it's interesting to see they're moving quite slowly. They're not moving nearly as quickly as they did last year. And most of the herds now have just, we're not far from the Tanzanian border, have just crossed in to Kenya. So, and they're not rushing, because the Mara, of course, had excellent rain this year as well. Let's see, let's follow this little boy a little bit further. See if he can find the rest of his pride. Other than that, I'm going to have to keep going. I'm going to keep heading down towards the southwest. And he is a little bit nervous, that's why I'm keeping my distance. Which makes me think he's part of the Ordonia Pike Pride that aren't as used to cars. Shame, little man. Hopefully he finds his pride. In the meantime, we'll send you across to a cat who is definitely not shy of a game drive vehicle or three.
Well, Tingana is not shy, but we're not quite looking at him at the moment. We're looking at a hyena that's got a little drop of blood on top of its shoulder. So you can see from sitting underneath this carcass as Tingana was feeding, it's basically dropped a little bit on it, and now it's going to have to clean that up at some point. But nice eyes, Craig. Craig spotted that little droplet of blood on top of the back of that individual. Now, Tingana just can't find himself a comfy spot. He keeps trying to sit and lie down, but he's just, I think, full and heavy, and the branch itself is too small, so it's probably cutting into him a little bit. There's thorns poking him in every direction, so he's trying to work out a way to actually lie a little bit more comfortably. And the reason why he can't move is because there's just too many hyenas around. He doesn't want to risk getting bitten or anything like that. The other thing is that I am 99.9% sure that there is another leopard here. There has been alarm calls all around us. Franklin's going crazy, squirrels going crazy. I took a little bit of a drive around just to see. I didn't find anything, but I'm pretty sure Tandi and Tlalamba are around as well, and I'm pretty sure that this carcass was stolen from them, given that their tracks were here yesterday, and these alarm calls that are all around us would indicate that they've now moved off and are going towards the drainage line of Nyala Road North. So there's a lot going on this morning. Once again, we've been absolutely spoilt when it's come to pretty much any sightings, but leopard sightings in particular. I mean, we've had a seriously good run that has been playing out for us, and not that any of us are actually complaining. It's been really nice to have so many leopards around and to be able to actually see them. Now you can see the carcass just dangling a little bit. It's not a very big carcass at all. There's not very much left there, and he'll probably be finished by this afternoon. Carol, no, he's not having a problem hunting. It's just much easier to steal, and he doesn't have to expend nearly as much energy trying to steal something than he does to hunt something. So it's there, it's available, might as well. It's the perks of being the dominant male leopard, is that you don't always have to go hunting, in that you can steal from other individuals. And it's not unique to Tingana. Pretty much every single male leopard that I've followed does this kind of thing. They all will take from females and younger males if they can. It's part and parcel of the way things go out here, and unfortunately for the females, it's almost the price that they pay in order to have protection in an area that's secure to raise cubs. So it's not that he can't hunt. He most definitely probably can hunt. It's just that he's finding so much food thanks to Hosanna and Tandi that it makes it much easier for him just to steal it than to expend energy looking for food. But his belly's been big and round for the last few days since he stole from Hosanna on, when it was that Friday, I think he stole a carcass from Hosanna, and he then disappeared for a few days and was seen by Sydney twice at Gallagher Pan with very round belly. So I think he might have made a kill of his own somewhere in that area and was feeding off it, and then he's come into this section now and has been sitting on this kill, or stolen this kill during the course of the night. But he's lucky, or whoever had this kill first is very lucky that they didn't get it stolen by the Nkuhuma Pride, because the tracks of the Nkuhuma Pride are less than 100 meters from here, and normally lions will smell it. And I think this carcass is much fresher than we actually think, and that's maybe why it wasn't stolen. If you have a look at it, that meat is still very red. There's no dry sections on it whatsoever. So if it was dry, it would have been from yesterday. You would have seen a little bit of drying on the edges, whereas this is still very, very red and very wet at the meat. And I know it's a bit gory, so if you're a bit sensitive, I'm sorry about that. But it's definitely something that I think was killed during the course of the night or yesterday afternoon and has been fed upon. And Tingana has really had a good time going at it and stealing at it this morning, and has fed quite nicely because he's not hugely full. If he had eaten all of that impala, he would be a lot bigger than what he actually is right now. He's just a little bit round, but not massively round. I don't know how he can be comfortable doing what he's doing right now, because he kind of has nowhere to put his head. So I don't see that as a sustainable position for him to lie down. Tingana, you're too big for that branch. It would be a perfect branch for Kalamba, but not for somebody of Tingana's size. He's kind of having to bow his head a little bit and try and keep it up. You can see the hyenas have also, they tired, they're kind of lying all about the car as well. So we've got hyenas and Tingana all in a row, just lying about and taking it very, very easy at this moment. Even the hyenas got a few little scraps, so it makes perfect sense for everybody just to have a bit of a rest. And then you can see them both kind of lying down, and the other two that were here are somewhere in the thickets around this area. So Ryan, what normally happens when a leopard comes down a tree when there's a kill? The hyenas will kind of run in, but they don't really chase the leopard. It's more just a little bit of a kind of check what's going on, make sure there's nothing else that's dropped. But I suppose they could chase him. It depends on how much bad blood is between these hyenas and this leopard and what kind of played out, but I doubt it. I doubt that he would get chased too far. He might get chased a little bit, a few meters, and then he would go. The thing is he's not going to come down because both hyenas are lying too close to his exit point. So he's got hyenas literally all around him, and when there's more than one hyena, then you find a leopard is a little bit more cautious. If there was only one and it was sleeping a little further away, he would have come down long ago and found himself a nice place just to go and sleep. But they're all lying too close for him to actually come down on this tree, and I'm pretty sure he wants to drop down even another level and go to those thicker branches that are slightly lower down, where he'll probably be able to flop down quite nicely. But the problem with that is that they're just too low, and the hyenas might then bug him. So he's pretty much, his only option for sleeping right now is where he is. But I feel like he's not done this very well. The way he was before was probably better. Tingana, that does not look ideal. But you can see, look at the size of his dewlap and his shoulders, how it's all scrunching up underneath his chin. Very interesting. So Michael, no updates on Tumba. The last update we got was that he was on Elephant Plains, which was, that's a while ago now. It's probably about, I would say, 8-9 days ago. Since then I haven't heard anything. I know there was a picture floating about from Londolozi of him. I don't know what the timeline is on that photo, but there's been no updates from any of the rangers. I did ask a few days ago, but the guys from the west hadn't seen anything, and I haven't heard back yet from the guys on Singita or Londolozi, so nothing as yet. But I don't think we have to worry too much. Tumba and Hosana, both of them, sometimes disappear for little periods of time, and they do their own thing, and they'll pop up somewhere. So I'm not too stressed about it at this stage, and hopefully he does start making an appearance again somewhere, and maybe even an appearance back on Jumba. But I doubt it. For some reason, Tumba has kind of given up on coming back here at this stage. He's spent a long time now away from this area, and so the chances of him coming back into this section are probably quite slim, to be honest, especially given the density of cats that we have around here in the form of Tingana, Hosana, Hokumuri, Quarantine. There's a lot of different leopards around and not much space for little Tumba to exist. Good. Well, Tingana is going to nap, and we're going to just sit a little bit longer, see if he does move and shift and whether he's going to come down. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Brent, who's still driving about the Mara, and I think he's still with the Lions.
Here we go. A Rupel's Griffin. We're just back on the edge of this little ridge looking down into the valley to see if there are any more lions. Unfortunately, they're not. That little boy also went climbing up into some rocks where we could not follow. So I think we're going to start meandering our way towards that big herd of wildebeest. So that little boy went up that ridge there, and there are some car killers up there. So we decided not to follow him any further. But he was calling quite loudly. Hopefully he finds his pride. We were hoping to stick with him, but unfortunately that area we're just unable to follow him into. Hi Sharon. Sharon's wondering, are walking safaris allowed in the Mara? Not in the reserve itself, so not in the Mara Triangle or the National Reserve, but in the conservancies outside, yes, there are walking safaris. Now, I don't know how comfortable I'd be walking here, and I'm not worried about the lions and the elephants so much, but the buffalo that appear out of nowhere in this long grass, and you don't have much cover to hide behind or move behind if you get yourself into a tricky position. But so in the reserve itself there are no walking safaris, and I don't think it would be sort of. I'm just going to warn, sometimes we do have a little bit of signal breakup around this area when I go past this little hill before I can get down below the hill again. Okay, no sign of the rest of the pride around here. Okay, so while I try find some more lions or maybe a cheetah or two, let's send you back to Tristan and Tingana.
Well, good luck, Benty. Hopefully you'll find them. I'm pretty sure they'll be somewhere there. It's obviously, it can be quite difficult. You'd think that it would be easy in these big open plains, but when there's a lot of grass like there is in the Masai Mara at the moment, it can make life a little bit more tricky, and so Brent will need a bit of luck in order to actually find the pride that he's looking for. So hopefully he'll find them. Tingana, we've moved a little bit just to see his face and see him just posing in the beautiful sunshine that we've got this morning. It is really very, very pretty. It's a nice kind of soft wintry light that's on him. He's, especially at this angle, we've got his kind of paws coming down the tree, and then his beautiful big head that he has also sticking out. So everything is absolutely perfect on this side. It's really been very pleasant sitting in and spending some time with the old Duke again. It's been a bit absent of late. When I first got back from Mara, we were seeing him daily, and it was very pleasant. And then over the last few days, he seems as though he's been quite busy with moving around and quite a few little territorial patrols as he's gone about things. And so it's been quite nice actually to spend the morning with him and see him happy and full and looking as good as he could ever look at this age. I mean, he's starting to get a little bit older now, so his time with us, unfortunately, is probably going to be shorter rather than longer. It's a sad thing to think about, but you know, it's just the reality of the situation is that he, much like Mvula, he's going to probably slowly but surely start to decrease in his health as the years go on. He's already around 12 years old, and so we know that for a male leopard, 12 years old is quite an old leopard, and so it'll take, you know, a few years until he kind of gets, well, not a few years, I mean it's a few months, and he might lose condition quite quickly from there. So hopefully that's not going to be the case. Hopefully he'll be like a Campan male and live until he's 15, 16 years old. But you know, the reality is that probably that's not going to happen, and there's so many other male leopards around that there's going to be a lot of pressure on him going forward. Oh, but look at that, isn't that beautiful? Are you looking at me as if to say you're not done yet? Yes, I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. He is a very, very beautiful. Look at the back leg as well, where it's positioned. Justin, no. To be honest, I haven't. I've never seen a leopard with hiccups. It's not to say that it might not happen. It's very possible that it could happen, but I've never seen it myself. It's one of those things that I suppose you never know. Maybe sometime in life you will see it and observe it, but I certainly haven't. And I suppose they just, I don't know, just don't do it. See them get sick and choke and regurgitate regularly, but never hiccups. There's a few birds that are also shouting the odds at hyenas that are moving, and Tingana in the tree. That's what he's just looking at the moment. So he's just staring off a little bit towards them, just checking them out and seeing that there's nothing else going on around him. Sarah, I don't know. I mean, I think that might be a bit of a long shot. I don't know if the hyenas know the difference between all the individual leopards. Probably a scent difference. But hyenas will treat leopards differently, mostly on their size. So remember, when a hyena arrives, it all happens very quickly, and they'll see big male leopard and they'll be a bit more cautious. They see small leopard like Tlalamba and they're going to be far more brazen and pushy and try and kind of get whatever they want out of it. So it just depends, I think, on size more than anything else. I don't think they know individual leopards by smell and recognize certain individuals. I mean, obviously they've got a sophisticated smell and sense of smell, but I don't know if it's that noticeable that they'll actually get to recognize individuals. Maybe. I mean, it depends on how much they smell a leopard, I suppose. You can imagine if they smell a leopard all the time, they might start to recognize Tingana's scent mark from, another one. It's an interesting question, actually. I'm not really sure we know the answer to it, or if there's ever been a study on it. Given that hyenas are so intelligent, it wouldn't surprise me if they are able to recognize individual scent. Interestingly enough, with the bird shouting, this hyena's just stood up and it's got its nose kind of up into the air. There we go. You see, look, just lifting, just sniffing. I wonder if it's trying to work out what's going on around in case there's another leopard that it can potentially smell, or if there's something in the air that it wants to know about. But they'll be patient. They're going to lie here the whole day. They're going to wait in the hope that Tingana drops most of his meal. The nice thing for Tingana is that he's got a tree that's very thorny, and so even if he drops it, it probably in all likelihood is going to get stuck in those thorns and just hang there. So that's not the worst, I suppose, for hanging your tree. It's almost a bit like a butcher's hook that he's put it on at this stage. Right, well, we'll sit with him a while longer, see if maybe these other leopards arrive or come back into the area. While we do that, though, let's send you back across to James, who must be beaming after seeing Hosanna on foot.
I am beaming, but this entire experience is tempered with a slight nostalgic sadness. They grow up so fast. The fact that we basically just waited on that termite mound there and then tried to bring Sydney in, but it was very difficult for Sydney to get a vehicle in here, so the leopard's gone. But we found his tracks again. We're not going to try and track him further because he very clearly wanted to move away from us, and that makes me sad because he never used to be like that, of course, but they grow up, these cats. And I'm sure that doesn't mean that he won't allow us to find him on foot again, but it just means that he's not going to approach us like he used to. And Herbert and I both thought when we moved onto that termite mound to sit down, we thought he would approach. But he didn't. He saw us go there and then he just kind of slunk off. So that's a little bit sad. Anyway, it's perfectly normal. And the sadness is purely my fault. Ezra, what do you mean protection against ticks? I've got some protection against ticks. There you are. The other reason I don't wear more than that is you'll notice that I have the legs of a grey-headed sparrow. And if you don't actually have any meat on your bottom legs, the ticks tend to avoid you. I am, of course, joking. I don't attract a huge number of ticks. And, of course, in winter there are very few ticks, so it wouldn't be something I would be worried about this time of the year. In summer I do spend the odd evening tearing at my skin. But, I'm used to the effects of the tick bites now in this area, so it's not something I worry about. And I far prefer, I'm much more irritated by long pants than I am by tick bites. I don't know why that should be the case. It's not like I don't get cold, but I really prefer shorts. I think it makes me feel like I'm free and a kid again, perhaps. Yes, especially as Emma says when I wear my jazzy shorts. You're quite right, Emma. Laurie lovely, I couldn't begin to tell you how many leopards I've seen on foot. I don't know. Many, many. The first one I saw on foot was actually during my training course at Pinda, and they were very unusual to see there at the time. I hardly ever saw leopards there. And nobody expected to do it. We crept up to look at a rhino on a little waterhole, very picturesque, beautiful waterhole. And this leopard just stood up out of the grass, didn't know that we were there. We were the highly experienced walking mentor. So we got in there very quietly, just like we did there. And we peeked our heads up over the top of this dam wall. There was the rhino drinking, totally oblivious to us. And I mean, I was clueless. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was 2 days into this training course, and somebody went, "There's a leopard." And there was a male leopard stood up out of the grass and stretched. And that was my first leopard on foot. And I've seen many, many since then, mostly due to the skills of the likes of Herbert. Very few due to my skills, and those that I have found using my skills have normally, I've sort of tripped over them rather than actually tracked them. It's been very special every single time. I can't remember a time where I haven't come away from it feeling a sense of some sort of emotion. And this one, as I said, slightly tempered with sadness because this young leopard no longer wants to spend too much time with us on foot. Ha 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 ha. Mr. Public, you say aren't all leopards on foot? You've never seen one driving. That's quite good. That's quite a good joke. I would suggest that Kirsten McLennan-Smith post a picture that she made of sort of an amalgamation of photographs that we had, one of which was was Tlalamba in the front of a Land Rover driving like this. And so maybe I can convince her to post that on #SafariLive, and you'll see the only driving leopard ever. Here he is coming back. Yeah, so maybe Sydney will find him at the pan, but we're not going to try again. We're going to see if we can't get across to where Thandi and Tlalamba are. We don't have a huge amount of time left. In the meantime, we are going to send you 1,500 miles to the north to the greatest spectacle on earth.
Right, so it sounds like gremlins are out and about this morning, giving a hard time to many. But anyway, Tingana is trying to sleep, but really has nowhere to put his head. And so at this stage is having a balancing act of keeping his eyes closed while trying to keep his head up. And it looks as though at times he's about to fall out the tree. You can see he's a bit wobbly as he sits there. And it's because he can't put his head anywhere. If he could just put his head down somewhere, he would be a happy cat. But there really isn't any space for his head to go. It's too far down, so it kind of droops quite far, and then he catches himself and lifts it up again. So let's have a look how far it will go this time. This is the furthest he's dropped it so far. Shame, boy, that's not comfortable. How can you sleep like that? I feel like if he just tried to reposition his body slightly, he might get it right, but no. You can't sleep like that, surely not, Tingana. No wonder Hosana is the way that he is. Here we go, he's lifting his head back up again. Very funny to watch, though. He really doesn't look comfortable at all. I feel like I just want to put a branch there across so that he can just put his head on the branch and then he'll be as happy as it can be. Now, hyenas have all just stood up and are looking very carefully. Fern, he does need a neck pillow, doesn't he? I feel like a little branch that comes out at an angle straight across his body, and then just a little pillow, and then he can just put his chin on that would be absolutely perfect, because the way that it is now really does not look comfortable at all. You're kind of straining his neck to try and keep it up. He's got his one back foot up near his shoulder, so it's not ideal at all when it comes to actually to be able to sleep. But there we go, look up at the carcass just to see what's going on there. Everything's still okay, and back to now eyes starting to close once again. So I think he was just watching the hyenas and seeing what they were up to a little bit when they moved, and now that there's not much happening there, he's going to enjoy the sunshine on his face. It must be very pleasant lying there on that branch with the warm sun just hitting you in the face and around the chest area. Very, very pleasant, I would imagine. Well, especially if you're a cat and it's after a coolish night, it must be nice. Jacqueline, not in the wild, so you know, those things that have happened, and animals breeding with other animals, so things like ligers situation. It's only when they're in captivity and people put them together that you get these kind of things. There was a leopard that mated with a lion in some establishment somewhere, which was only because the male leopard was put in with a lioness in estrus and in a cage, and then the two of them actually mated. But it's not something that should happen. It's in the wild, they're mortal enemies and will avoid each other as much as possible and really try not go anywhere near each other. So it doesn't happen out here. You won't see leopards mating with lions, or lions mating with cheetahs, or cheetah with leopard. It just doesn't happen. They're mortal enemies out here, and so there's a reason that they don't. Now, our hyenas have all of a sudden perked up quite a lot. They've decided that something is afoot and are walking along a little bit, so I wonder where they're off to. Tingana's also wondering. He's thinking to himself, but hang on, why is everybody leaving me now? And, well, it's because Tingana, everybody is maybe going to go find themselves somewhere else to go lie down. I thought for a second maybe something was approaching, but it doesn't seem like it. The hyenas would have been far more assertive in their movements if they had seen another predator around. I think it's just that they probably want to go and find a better place to lie. Tingana, are you struggling there, boy? That's what happens when you feed yourself. I suppose it's the price to pay. An uncomfortable branch for a thieving act is karma right there. Is that because he's stolen it, he needs to now sit and think about what he's done on an uncomfortable branch. Now, I say if he's stolen it, I might be being very unfair, but just the way that carcass looks and the size of him and his tummy, I don't think he was the one that first killed this. I honestly don't believe it, and with the alarm calls that we've had all around us would tend to suggest that there was another leopard here in this particular area. So, I mean, could be being very unjust to Tingana. So I suppose we can't rule it out as a possibility that he did make this kill, but I would doubt it if he did. It also looks like the carcass has been stripped a lot more than what a leopard would normally do. It seems as though it's a bit tatty. Leopards are generally quite clean, efficient eaters, and you can see this is quite sort of pulled apart. So I wonder if maybe he did kill it and the hyenas got some of it, and then he managed to wrestle away a portion of it and put it in the tree. This could also be possible. It's just all theories. We don't know for sure. Unless we had been here, we would have never known. But like I say, with the way that the francolins and the birds and squirrels were alarm calling, it was, to me, very indicative that there was another cat around, or another predator around. That francolins don't go as crazy as they were going for as long as they did, and squirrels don't alarm call generally with francolins unless there is something that's disturbing everybody. Would have been nice if we had had an antelope alarm call, because then we would have known for sure. Indigo Girl, yeah, I would say so. I mean, you imagine how much weight is actually bearing onto those arms. His head and neck area must be very heavy. There's a lot of muscle in that section, and so you would think his arms would have gone, or his legs, his front legs, let's call them, would have gone numb by now. But I don't know, leopards have this ability to make even the most uncomfortable spots seem semi-comfortable, and he seems quite happy and placid with life. He's not exactly that unrelaxed about what's going on. His kind of eyes are closed. He seems content. I suppose full belly does help with that regard, and there's hyenas that have now pushed away a little bit, so if he wants to come down, he can actually do it, which would be probably the best idea. I think if he's a clever cat, now would be the time to probably come down and find himself a better spot. Kelly, not any of the other big predators. You'll find things like genets and civets will sometimes put food in a tree and feed off it up there. It's not often, but it does happen. But that's about it. There's nobody else that really stashes their food. I suppose squirrels stash their food in a tree. Birds potentially would. I mean, they feed in trees, a lot of them. But none of the other big predators really take carcasses up and hang them anywhere. You won't ever see lions or cheetah do it, and wild dogs and hyenas can't climb, so they're not going to move anything up into a tree. So it's really only the leopard of the big predators. You might find, like I say, a genet or a civet having a franklin or something up in a tree if they feel like it's safer for them to do so, but that's not that common. So really the leopards are the king of the trees in terms of feeding, and it makes their life, what's part of what's their niche and what makes them quite special is that they are able to do that, which means that they keep their carcasses for longer periods of time, unless of course they don't get it up in time and then the hyenas will take it. So it's a clever strategy, because this leopard would have lost this kill had it not been for the tree and him getting up into it in time. And I suspect he was surprised by these hyenas, and that's why he had to race up this tree very quickly, because there's a lot of far better trees around him and far better suited for hanging a carcass than the one that he's in. But when you pressure's on and hyenas are bearing down and you just go up whatever you can, the marulas in the background there that you can see would be probably much better trees, especially that one right there would have been a much better tree for him, and he would have been probably a lot more comfy in a tree like that. Right, now it sounds like James is still hanging about where Hosana was and trying to help Sydney get into the sighting, so let's send you across to James and see what he's been up to and whether or not they've gotten Sydney to where Hosana was.
We had another view of Hosana quite by chance. He obviously crossed back sort of over where we had been walking, and yet again it was Senzo. Herbert and I were in deep conversation. Senzo said, "Leopard, leopard," and he ran across the road in front of us into these bushes here. We didn't follow him because obviously we don't want to give him a fright, and Sydney's now in there, but it's an impenetrable bush or fortress of bush, so I'm not sure he's going to find him. Alrighty, very exciting. In fact, Brent has got something with a kill. It is not a lion, it is not a leopard. What could it be?
Well, there we go. There's a hyena with some of the spoils from last night, dragging a bit of wildebeest down the road. So we've come quite far to the south from where we were with the sausages this morning, just to see if we could find the sausage boys. The last place we saw them was on top of this ridge, and there's been absolute carnage behind us. There's vultures everywhere and carcasses, hyenas dragging, so it could be that the male lions are around here and had an absolute feast last night. Oh, look, I mean, there's just so many vultures at the moment. They're just coming off the ground. Sorry, Vim. Let me just do this. There we go. And if they're on the ground this early in the morning, it's often a good sign that the big cats are close. They haven't had time to wake up and ride the thermals yet, so they've been very close to where the kills happened, but they are starting to wake up now. Now, the vultures also move with the migration. So we have resident vultures, but a lot of vultures will actually travel with the migration. And there's just so much bounty if you're a vulture. It makes sense to follow the migration as it moves. Okay, let's have a quick look down at the male lion's favorite spot from last year. After they had gorged themselves in wildebeest, they like to lie down in this cool area down at the bottom of the salt lake. Now, this hyena clan around here is quite cool. There's a female who's got no ears, They've been chewed off by other hyenas, most likely. Oh, the wind is really starting to howl. And no sign of any lions, unfortunately. Here's that hyena disappearing with that piece of wildebeest. Oh, very, very windy. It's been very windy the last couple of days during the day. Great for flying kites. What have we got there? Top end of the... no, nothing. Okay, let's keep going on. We're going to start looping back towards the sausages now. Oh, what's that? There's another hyena. I think it might be. You see them? Oh, it's disappeared into the grass. It looked like another hyena. The den might be quite close to here if that's taking stuff back, but in these rocks, there you see its head's up again. What is that? It is a hyena. Just popping its head up to see what's going on. Now we've got a question from Rosette saying, what would happen to the ecosystem if the vultures were removed? Well, Rosette, vultures have, and hyenas, have an incredibly strong stomach in terms of what they are able to deal with. So if vultures and hyenas were removed from the ecosystem, you would probably find a lot more disease. They are the sort of cleanup crew. They remove the disease factor. They can eat stuff that would make a lion sick, and they don't get sick. So they help keep down disease. So if you had to remove vultures from the ecosystem, the diseases would get probably quite bad, and not only for the predators, but also for the herbivores and stuff. Diseased animal, those diseases wouldn't be destroyed by the vultures eating them, and would probably spread and could cause quite a few problems in a population. Oh, this wind. It's like roaring around my ears. It's a constant. So no lions snoozing around here just yet. Oh. Lots of dust coming off the road. Okay, well, I keep looking for the sausage tree males.
I am in the middle of my search now looking for Hosanna. Hosanna is playing some hide and seek this morning as the bushwalk team saw it shortly after I have arrived in the area, and he just got disappeared. Then they reallocated him again. I went in there again, they called me, I found nothing. So here where I am is an area where he just got disappeared. So I will be hanging around here just to have a chance so that maybe we can have a good sighting. The tracks for Tingana and Hosanna, they don't look the same at all. Tingana's tracks are way much bigger than Hosanna's tracks. Hosanna is still a young male, and then he's still got to grow. His paw is still very much small. So in other words, on the ground, we can be able to see which one we are following. So I'm just going to go around Mvubu Road and see. Maybe he's trying to avoid us going down that side. Hey, but he's not walking too fast. Great indeed, great sightings for leopards this morning. That is phenomenal. Despite the fact that Thandi and Kalamba is hiding at the moment, but it has been a great morning so far. Maybe I will also be lucky too and find Hosana again. So right here where we are is where Hosana is concentrating the most. His activities and his hunting activities are taking place much more right here where we are. So here comes the bushwalk team again. We have met again. So they have just called me to look for that leopard, and we are just missing each other, hiding every time. So the sighting has just been coming and going, But they have been lucky because they saw it twice already this morning.
If you not find that leopard, you're not gonna get breakfast. Must go and find that.
I just got a promise from Senzo, the camera operator for the bushwalk. So he's saying I must have to try by all means and find that leopard, otherwise I'm not going to get a breakfast this morning. But yes, I'm going to try there again now. Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your updates here. So that was the bushwalk team. We have been working together this morning to try and find Hosana, but they have been lucky because they saw it twice. So the thing is, the first sighting where they got it, it was just by the drainage. He was walking in the middle of the drainage, which was very much difficult for us to see him from the top. So now let's see the bushwalk team. Maybe they are up to something. I don't know what is their next plan after Hosana. Let's hear from James.
I just fell in a hole. That's the only thing I'm up to at the moment. We had hoped to try and get to where Thandi and Tlalamba were possibly chased off that kill by the ultimately impressive scavenger Tingana. But I don't know that we're going to get there in time. We'll have a look around and see if we can get that far. But that's our plan from now. Okay, good. Well, it's been a pretty successful morning from a bushwalk point of view. We feel satisfied with things. I'm sure Sydney's feeling a certain level of frustration at the moment, but that's just how it goes out here, doesn't it? It seems that the more certain the chances of having a sighting are, the less likely you are to actually have that sighting. I know that many times myself where an animal has been seen, we go in there and then it just disappears. Here we have a little collection of birdies. Let's have a look at them. We've got Birchall starlings and one of my very favourites, the crested barbet. Trying to look as resplendent as the starling, failing slightly because of its scruffy nature. Great character, those birds. If you're wondering what that building is in the background, that's Inga's house, which we often talk about. Omkar, well, apart from Herbert, the best tracker I've worked with a number of good ones. I think, you know, initially when I started in the bush, anybody who could find a track of anything, I was slightly overwhelmed by. I was awed by their skills. And so perhaps the chaps that I worked with initially weren't as good as I thought they were. But I'd say the best tracker I've ever worked with, I think my country mile, is a chap called Renayas Matanjana Ntlongo, who we've mentioned many times before. He works with a friend of mine, and they run an academy called the Tracker Academy. And Renayas grew up in Dixie, not too far from the gate here. And he has just been tracking for a very long time. He loves tracking. He teaches it. He teaches it all over the world. He's tracked grizzly bears and wolves in Yellowstone. He's tracked kangaroos in the outback. He's tracked jaguars in the Pantanal. And mostly he's tracked down just about every leopard there is in the Sabi Sands. So I would say that he is probably, other than the great Herbert Causer, the best tracker I've worked with. Herbert is not far off, I tell you what. Here we have some babblers. Fern, you're in Australia and you say there are wild animals here in the suburbs. Well, it depends where you are, Fern, I suppose. I do apologise for my accent, but I quite like to try the Australian accent every so often. I think it sounds amazingly Australian. Most Australians don't think it sounds Australian at all. Anyway, I'm going to keep going like this, Fern. Fern, there are parts of South Africa where we find animals in the suburbs. Indeed, a leopard was found not too far from Pretoria a little while back. So that was one quite shocking experience. There was a lion in Nelspruit the other day. Nelspruit's a little town not too far from here, where the biggest medical facilities are in the Lowveld. So that was quite shocking as well. But if you go into the rural areas out here, Dixie, Sluvukani, some of these other places here, yeah, you find animals from time to time. They break out the fences. There's a place in KwaZulu-Natal called Halui Halui. The Zulus call it Tlutluwe, but we call it Halui Halui. And, you'd find elephants and rhinos breaking out of the fences from time to time, walking through the villages. And so, well, I suppose you might describe those as suburbs, but the suburbs I grew up in, Johannesburg, no, very unlikely to find a wild animal. Plenty of wild people, not a lot of wild animals. There you go, Fern. That's my attempted Australian for the morning. Your afternoon, of course. And I must apologise once more that I know that I think I sound Australian, but no Australians would think that, of course. We did see a drongo. Yes, a drongo. No dingoes. A couple of drongos. Good. Carry on. Herbert's looking at me as I've lost my mind. Herbert's probably not wrong. Good. Now, I hope I haven't insulted the whole of Australia there. I find it such a tempting accent to try. And I've always... It's so funny how you think you're doing a good rendition until you do it for somebody from a certain place. So, I think I do a pretty good Scottish accent too, but I was with a Scottish person the other day, Lauren from the Dive Live, and whenever I spoke to her, I'd try and take her accent off, and she'd say, "That was a terrible Scottish accent. You really don't know how to do it at all." And I was very insulted by that. Anyway, that's how it is. Thank you, Fern. You've complimented me on my Australian accent. I think you're just being kind, but I will take it. Thank you. Let's have one look at that hornbill over there. The hornbill's hidden. Let's go back to Sydney. I hope that he finds Hosala.
Can you see it clear here? Here is nice and clear. Yeah, I am trying to track Hosana, but now I did manage to get the tracks. So now I just want to check these tracks very nicely. Can you see these tracks, Seb? Yeah, not nice and clear from there, but this track looks very much fresh. I can see also here. So it means that when we were down that side, he picked up our presence and then he walked all the way up this side. So I'm just going to keep following and try to check this Hosana in this block here. So the thing is, Hosana experienced the guided walk twice this morning, and as well looking for him. So he's shy a little bit. He went up somewhere this side. So I'm just going to go now and see, without any waste of time, if we can find him going somewhere this side, because those tracks, they look very much fresh. And they are coming from the direction where it was last seen. Just plug my ear piece again. Yeah, so now let's carry on and see. Maybe we might be lucky, because here is by the water hole where he is depending on for some water, but now he was not for. He has been here earlier, according to the tracks on the ground, for water. Now he just went past here trying to avoid us. So let's go around here and see. Maybe when we get to the other side, we might be lucky. I'm staying by, Sand. So I'm just trying to get hold of James, who is looking for me here on the radio. James, Sydney, I'm standing by. Send a message. Maybe the about to give me some updates here. So it is this area where Hosanna just got disappeared, and it's the very same area he was playing hide and seek since this morning. So I'm just gonna go up towards the road quarantine area to see if he is crossing all the way up, heading towards the southern side of the game reserve. So now let's go to Masai Mara and see how the animals in Kenya, Masai Mara, are doing this morning.
Unfortunately, no luck with Kipuli and the two little boys just yet. And we are right sort of in the northern part of the Salt Lake at the moment. I was hoping they might have moved this way. The wildebeest are just beyond this hill. Not seeing much at all out here at the moment, unfortunately. But you never know what's around the next corner. I think today is actually the windiest day we've had in a while. Hello, Kelly. Kelly, the area we film in the Mara Triangle is 60,000 hectares, so over 120,000 acres is the area we traverse in the Mara Triangle. There are a few little spots behind hills and whatnot where we can't actually broadcast from because the hills block the signal. But the vast majority of the Mara Triangle we are able to broadcast live from. So it is really exciting. So it's the same size as the whole of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, the area we broadcast out of. Nothing around the Salt Lake today. Not even a warthog. Normally there's always a warthog or three around here. Morning, Robert. Robert wants to know what animals we've met on foot in camp in the Mara. Whoa! Elephant, buffalo. I haven't seen the lions, but they have been into our camp before, but I haven't actually seen them. Zebra every night. VM keeps chasing the zebra away from his tent every night. Sometimes they trip over our guide ropes and cause a heck of a lot of noise at 3 in the morning. It's quite upsetting from time to time. Duiker, dik-dik, Kakamega blue monkeys, vervet monkeys, olive baboons, hyena, what? The genets, yes, our tree hyrax. Dviem sees a genet near his tent quite often. Scrub hare, which has given me heart failure from time to time, deciding to only run when I nearly stand on it. Wildebeests. What else am I missing? Oh, waterbuck, bushbuck. Yeah, there's quite a lot of game around camp, all throughout the year. Okay, I don't think we're having any luck with these boys, so I'm going to start heading back towards the girls, which are way over there. But they were looking so lazy this morning. Well, it seems like Tristan has got tired of staring at Tingana.
Well, it's not that we got tired of staring at Tingana, it's just that with the alarm calls all around, we wanted to investigate a little bit further, and we came down the road and we've got very interesting tracks to show all of you. So I'm going to try and just jump across so that I don't put a shadow on them. But basically what we've got is over here, you've got the track for Tingana. So this is his footprint that you see. There's his toes and his pads at the back. You can see sort of quite round and quite big. If I put my hand next to it, you'll see that it is pretty much about the size of my palm. So quite a large track. But interestingly enough, next to it is the tracks for a lion. So here is a lioness over here, or sorry, a male lion's back foot. So it's slightly smaller than his front foot. His front foot will be a little bit bigger, but you can see the size difference. If I put my hand there, it's pretty much dead on the size of my hand, whereas the leopard track much smaller. So there is the difference between the two. You'll also notice with this lion track, it is very elongated. It's almost like a rectangle if I had to put it over, rather than a circular shape of the leopard track. So that's front foot, back foot difference. If we had the back foot of Tingana next to the back foot of the lion, it would be quite similar in terms of its shape. But you can see how you cannot miss the two of them in terms of size. These guys are just so much bigger than what the leopard track is. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do it with a piece of grass so that I can actually just show you just how big it really is. Let me just try to break that off. So we'll put a piece of grass down, and I've done this before, but we'll just do it again because this is quite nice just to see. And we'll do one from over there. Right, so basically, in terms of the length of these tracks, this is how much bigger a lion track is than a leopard track in length. Okay, the back foot is a much longer track than the front foot. The front foot is a big round track, but in the back foot a little bit more elongated. But gives you an idea of just how much larger lions are than leopards. I mean, this is a big male leopard, and I think it's one of the Avoca males that must have walked through here. So that's the sort of size comparison between the two of them. Pretty cool to see. The other interesting thing is that we found tracks, very, very fresh tracks for Thandi and Tlolamba, so I'm now 100% sure that Tingana stole this carcass from them. And when the hyenas arrived, then Thandi just decided to bolt, and so she's just crossed over the road. We must have just missed her because her tracks are steamingly fresh. James and Herbie are going to try and come into the area and give us a hand, and we're just going to follow these lion tracks a little bit further to see where they go, just to double check which male has been snooping about in this area. But just off to our right, I've been spending a lot of a little thick drainage of Nyala Road North. We see them here quite regularly, so I'm pretty sure
I am now still looking for Hosana in the very same area, but now I'm just going around just to see if maybe he's not crossing much more to this side, because I am really battling to come across the tracks where they have come out from the bushes. So I'm just checking all the corners to make sure that he is still in here, or he is out of the area now. So these cats, they can hide very much easily. And in that area where I have started now, I just saw some couple of nyalas and a decker. Not too sure if now it's about avoiding us or he is now trying to stalk something. Because I did not hear any of the alarm calls from those animals, meaning that those animals are not aware about Hosana's presence in this area at the moment. Even some of the birds, such as francolins, were just feeding there, not having any problem with the presence of Hosana. So it means Hosana, where he is now, is hiding and no other animals can see it. So it is still very much dry here in the area at the moment. We are heading towards spring. By the beginning of the rainy season, we are hoping for the good rains. So I'm just now around Vuyotela Pen to see if maybe he is coming here at the moment, because the direction of the tracks, they were heading towards this direction of Vuyotela Dam from the Galago Pen. Maybe I will find Hosana during the afternoon. I can see now that the chances of seeing Hosana again, to relocate him, are not easy at the moment. They are very much low. So now let's hear James. I don't know what he's up to now.
Well, what I'm up to is just trying to get one last quick squiz here in the central eastern parts of Djuma and see if we can't find Thandi and Tlalamba, or certainly sign of them. Tristan had signs here. He's also following tracks of lions up towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is not far from here. We may well be very lucky in the last minute of drive to have the lions on the dam. We'll see. I do excuse, please, the fact that I'm walking on the road, but we're just trying to cover a bit of distance before the end of the drive. This is where Thandi was. We want to go around there. Let's do it. We'll follow you. Carol, I can try and do a Kiwi accent. I find the Kiwi accent is a little bit like, it's a bit flatter. It's flatter than the Australian one. And they say things like, the Crusaders won the Super Rugby title. They say in Christchurch. They were in Christchurch. I tend to sound a little bit effeminate when I talk in New Zealand, but obviously that is not to cast aspersions on the manliness of some of the All Black rugby players, of course. Anyway, this is my attempt at a Kiwi accent. We can see tracks of Tingana coming down the road here. He disappeared into the bushes, somewhere around here where he stole, of course, the kill, we think, from Thandi and Tlalamba. So, we're coming to the end of a drive now, and I'm going to look in the drainage line over here to see if there are any fish or chips, Tlalamba, or maybe Thandi. It'd be great to see either of them. And that's basically my Kiwi accent. We'll have a quick squiz around here. I don't know if we're going to be lucky this late in the day, but who knows? Anything's possible on safari. Well, it's coming to the end of our drive now. Tristan's still having a look around for the lions up north. We're going to look down in this drainage system over here. while you go off and do whatever it is you have to do. If you're in New Zealand, of course, it's night time now. Good night to you. I hope you have a good evening. If you're in Australia, well, it's a little bit later than that, or a little bit earlier than that. You can probably have a supper still and go to bed. And the rest of the world, we'll see you later. 1500 hours here in South Africa. Thank you for joining us. Until then, goodbye. That's all I have to say. See ya.